It's been a couple days since the big crash, and we've recovered back to the point of the original crash, which is still above where we were back in 2022. However, why am I like unable to speak right now? We're rapidly approaching rapidly approaching the new knives that have been created from the trade up the trade up contracts. We're rapidly approaching the date where they're going to be marketable and they're going to flood the market, and I think things are going to crash again. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't think the skins market is dead. I also am going to be honest, and I don't think that China is going to be gone forever. I could be wrong, but I kind of doubt it. So the plan is on the 30th, golds especially are going to tank. The question is how long they will stay tanked, because I mean they honestly might not even tank more than they are right now, because we're all like waiting for this. I know I'm degenerate, but to sit here and look at this crash and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to buy back into this." But I am, and I know a lot of other people are. So there's a real chance that things don't actually like drop off the face of existence, because like butt plugs right now are $80, and that's honestly what. But there's a real chance that the price of golds doesn't really drop lower than it's at right now, and the reason for that is because everybody's going to be sitting and waiting to buy these back, right? Because these have already recovered about 50% from what they were the other day. A lot of these were at like 30. Yeah, these were going for 45 on the low end on the first day of the crash, and they've recovered back up to around 60. But I'm interested to see. I did sell a lot of my own inventory. As you can see, this is what we were at before the crash. This is where I was at the crash. And then this I just sold today. So I didn't sell into this. I sold I sold at the crash price. So I sold around here. I'm expecting another crash. If it doesn't crash, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Most of what I sold is stuff that I was planning on selling anyways. So, worst case, if nothing crashes, I'll just buy back the same day anyways. And so maybe take like a couple percentage loss. But I'm not sure. This has definitely been an interesting dumpster fire to watch. Because as you can see, everything fucking tanked. Well, except charms, which then dropped. Charms spiked in price while the rest of the market crashed, and then they're now back down to normal. When people say Counter-Strike skins are not investments, this is what we're talking about. This is just gambling. But actually, I want to look at what are operators at. Yeah, these have recovered a little bit, but they are still crashing. So honestly, I honestly might buy some agent skins, because I have the extra money right now, and while these are still low, it might be worth to buy these, because there's absolutely no reason that these skins should have been affected in any way. They're literally not in the only things that were directly impacted by the update here. By the update here are reds, knives, and reds. Right, reds should go up and knives should go down. The reason we're seeing this shit is because China panicked and left. Right? This is when China was here. This is when China was not, well, this is when China was here. This is when China was not here. This is when everybody realized China was not here. Now we're recovering back to normal because everybody's done panicking, and we're like, hold on, wait a minute. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really make sense for the whole market to just fucking die overnight because knives are more common. That doesn't make sense. And so things have recovered a little bit, but I am curious to see the amount of panic that we get on the 30th. and what it does to the market, because I do plan on buying them, and it'll be interesting to see if we have another dip. I mean, if we dip lower than this, I will actually probably invest money because I'll just be able to buy an absurd number of skins for no money. I mean, that's the only reason my inventory was worth this much to begin with. This is where, right here, is around where I stopped spending money on my inventory. My inventory went up to $800 just through skins, right? I've only ever spent about $200 on Counter-Strike skins. And so if we see a drop bigger than this, I will definitely put money in, and I'll do the same thing. I'll just buy a bunch of junk for cheap, and then we'll see if this comes back, because like I said, I do believe that China's going to come back. I'd be kind of surprised if they don't. There's a lot of people with a lot of money, and as we've seen time and time again with this fucking community, people just have money to burn, right? There's people who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on Genshin Impact. That is objectively a worse purchase than a CS:GO skin, right? As degenerate as you can say it is to like invest life savings into this, right? Because my philosophy for quote unquote investing into CS:GO skins is the money that I'm putting into this is money that I want to set aside for video games, right? That's the whole point. Whenever I sell, I can sell it, I get the money in my Steam wallet, and I can buy games. That's sort of always been the goal. And so, while you can say that it's stupid to invest your life savings into CS:GO skins, there's people who dump their life savings into Genshin Impact, which is just on every level objectively worse. So I promise you, I would be shocked if this actually kills the skins market. I for sure think that this is gonna bounce back, right? I mean, we're already seeing it a little bit. Like I said, the 30th is gonna be the big question. What happens on the 30th? But look at how low agents dropped. Honestly, I probably should have bought this dip. I didn't. Well, honestly, I didn't because I really wasn't paying enough attention, and I also didn't really care that much. But now that we have a little bit more time to plan, we got, well, 2 days left until the knives hit the market. But let's see what Jesus has to say. Let's wait. Are these in the right order? Because I actually haven't watched. I think this is right.
So I have this crazy dream that I'll wake up one day and it turns out my career is over and my life is ruined. That didn't happen today, but Valve did do a pretty crazy update with big implications.
I mean, let's be honest. If Valve did somehow kill the Counter-Strike skins market, I'm pretty sure Jesus could just farm it for enough YouTube views that he'd still be able to make enough money to like to make enough money to be good.
For Counter-Strike and the skins market as a whole. Having a closer look at the update section, you can see that Valve have just added the ability to trade up for knives. 5 StatTrak covert items will now get you 1 StatTrak knife, and 5 regular covert items will now get you 1 regular knife. Yeah, so you know that thing that Skillet did as a prank back in 2016? Yeah, it's real now, and you only need half the number
Wait, I forgot McSkillet did that. That's crazy, actually.
Let's check some of the replies out. What the hell are you guys smoking over there? I invested my 401k into this game, now my skins are worthless. Where can I file my lawsuit? I saw on social media that some college students have already jumped off buildings. What's your take on this, Valve? What the fuck do you think you're doing, you fucking Mongols? It seems like people are
like, while it's fair to like criticize or be upset, like we do need to be honest, it's not Valve's like fault if this destroyed your life, right? I think most rational people, even within the community, will agree that we are gambling, no matter how no matter which way you cut it. Where's the charms at? No matter which way you cut it, we're gambling, because again, knives should have gone down, reds should have gone up, everything went down, and charms went up. We're gambling. So if you're putting your 401k, right, if you're actually putting your 401k into this, that's on you.
This video isn't going to be a full market breakdown, that will come tomorrow, but what I am going to explain is why Valve have done this, because there is a reason, and while I don't...
Well, there's two reasons. One, because Valve stimulating the market always benefits Valve, right? If we all sell all of our skins and then we all buy all of our skins back, that's just giving a shit ton of money to Valve, right? Because they get a cut of every one of those sales and every one of those purchases. So it's just printing money for them on the one hand. But on the other hand, I do think that golds, especially, have become fucking ridiculously expensive, right? As somebody who has one singular gold and has had one singular gold forever, I've had this case hardened. This is one of the... I bought this. I've had this case hardened for like 6 years at this point. I bought this for like $90. The fact that a couple weeks ago it was at $300 is crazy. I mean, like I said, I stopped investing money into Counter-Strike at $200 and I just left it because I didn't need to. It just kept going up on its own. Right? Like, I'm sure there were a couple times where I was like, "Oh, I want this skin," and I bought a $30 skin. But this is where I stopped, like, actually. This is the only like time where I put a big chunk of money into the game. And the rest of this was just the market itself. I never needed to put more. And so these skins have gotten to absurd prices, right? Like, I mean, dealers go for like the price of used cars. I think, at least in some capacity, Valve wants something that's fucking playable. Valve wants somebody that's not a fucking streamer or a YouTuber to be able to use a knife, even if it's a butt plug, because butt plugs have been at like $300, right? And so I think those are the two big reasons. One, because it makes Valve a lot of money, and two, because I think they do want to make like at least a little bit of a like a playable, purchasable skin. Wow, like a little bit of a purchasable tier of golds, right?
necessarily agree with it, it does make a lot of sense. Now, the release of this update was a bit chaotic. First, people freaked out when they saw what Valve had done, then they calmed down because initially the knives weren't tradable, then they freaked out again when Valve fixed that and made the knives tradable. This then was immediately followed by conspiracy theories that someone in China knew this was coming, and that's why covert skins have been going up in price over the last couple of months. Now, just to be clear, I don't know if Fandom is being serious here, but this theory is definitely real and it is completely fucking retarded. China has been buying up
That is the
everything
stupidest
over
thing
the last
that I've
couple of
ever
months,
heard.
especially the stuff that just got absolutely...
I mean, like I said, China has been dumping money into Genshin Impact, right? Let's look. Right, look at this Reddit post. Look at this Reddit post, right? China just dumps money into things. There's no conspiracy that China was pumping the market to dump it. That's dumb as hell. They just pump markets. That's their thing. That's what they do. They've got a lot of money and they're like, "Oh, that dumb shit looks cool. Let's buy it."
fucking rare. In fact, they were literally pumping a set of gloves just a couple of hours before this update hit. China is probably central to what's just happened here, and this kind of crazy purchasing
They dipped
is
the
what
fuck out real fucking quick. They saw the update and they were like, "Nope, we're done with this game."
caused it. You see, over the last 6 years, the Chinese scene has been pumping crazy amounts of money into the skins market. This has partly been driven for demand for skins as luxury goods, but also partly by a lot of interest in skins as investments. And during the last year, this has been going in skins as investments.
These should be quotation marks.
And during the last year, this has been going nuts. In fact, we've increasingly been seeing a phenomenon where skins are essentially being tokenized. Players have been buying up the entire supply of something just to prove a point, and in the process, doing literally what we see here to the prices of a whole bunch of different skins. And
I've done that. I have a bunch of random stickers that, well, one, I have a bunch of sick stickers, like the player sick. They're all like in cases right now. But like I have a bunch of these. That's another thing. My inventory, this number is lower than it actually is because my inventory was also just a mess, and I dumped literally everything into my storage units. So this is, if I emptied everything, this would still be like 15 pages. So I still have a lot of shit. But I used to do the same thing, right? I did the same thing with cases. I spent a lot of money on 3-cent cases, and I've sold them over the past couple months for like $3 to $10. That's an insane profit margin on a lot of those. And it just, I mean, you can see the less, well, this was a meme. I was just buying sand dunes because sand dunes are funny, but I mean, realistically, if I did buy a large amount, that still would have been like some profit. But yeah,
Because of that,
China doesn't need a conspiracy theory to pump money into something. That's just what they do.
a lot of skins have simply become unaffordable to the average player. Now,
Yeah, that's
this
exactly
isn't
what I think
automatically
this
a problem. Gabe Newell probably doesn't give a shit if some Chinese dude owns all the hydroponics. It's not that big of a deal if the average player doesn't get to make some 420 jokes. But it is a problem if the average player can't afford a knife, and it's a problem without an easy fix.
Especially if they can't afford any knife. Like, it's one thing that a D-lore is stupidly expensive. It would be completely different. Imagine if every op skin was over $1,000, right? Like, that would start breaking things. People would stop purchasing op skins. And especially, another big part of this is the Steam market can only sell so high, and Steam also takes the cut, right? And so once you start getting to really expensive items, they're just like, you can't buy a D-lore on the Steam market, right? That's not how it works. And so whenever you have so many skins that are that expensive, it hurts it hurts Valve because people stop buying the skins and people stop selling them on the market. And so I think that that's the big reason for it, is they want people to be able to look and be like, "Oh, this knife is $100. I'm going to spend money on that." Right? Because right now they're looking at it and they're like, "I got to spend $500." And of course people aren't going to spend that, right? And so it's, I'm sure to a large degree, despite the fact that the market has so enormously grown, I'm sure it has stagnated in a lot of ways on Valve's end, especially on the higher end, just golds in general, right? Because it's just so unachievable for the average person. And so I agree with Jesus. I think that's 100% the reason.
After all, Counter-Strike skins are a market, and history would suggest that messing with markets is a very dumb thing that will blow up in your face, especially for Valve, because that's how they make money from this game.
But also, I mean, yeah, to a degree, if they break the market, that is bad for them. But if they do anything that causes people to buy and sell, it is good for them, right? As long as people continue to buy and sell, right? Even if the market prices do crash, as long as they don't crash to the point of absurdity, I don't think Valve really cares, because if all the skins go down to a more purchasable price, all that means is a lot more people are now going to start buying CSGO skins. Maybe not as investments, but they'll do it to have play skins. And then because of that, you'll see a lot more going back and forth of skins, where people buy skins and then they sell it for a new one, or they sell it for a game, right? And then that stimulates the market a lot more than having a really high-end market. And so unless Valve kills it, I don't think they really care.
You see, they've got a few options. They could make cases cheaper, but this would fundamentally crash the price of skins across the entire market and cost Valve a lot of money. They could also increase the drop rates or even bring back older cases, but again, this would fundamentally crash the price of skins and probably also end up costing Valve a lot of money long term. But then there's a third option. You see, there's a lot of useless reds lying around that nobody wants, so what if people were allowed to trade them up into golds? On paper,
The third option being labeled mixed skillet is crazy.
all this is going to do is move some of the value out of golds into those reds, making golds more affordable and everything else a bit more expensive. In theory, this won't affect prices on the market at all, it will just shift them around a bit. And
in theory, China didn't like that theory.
I think that may have been what's happened here. Valve noticed a lot of golds were becoming unaffordable, so they've tried to make them a bit more accessible.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm only saying this because I'm someone who didn't have very many golds and had a lot of reds and still has quite a bit of reds. I like this change. As long as it doesn't kill the market
as a whole.
I do like this
change. There is one
change.
very obvious criticism of them doing this. It's a valid one, and it's confidence.
Yeah, this is the big question. Now, again, I don't think it matters. People spend their life savings on gacha games. I mean, there's been times where I'll tell somebody that, like, the developer of a gacha game cares more about profits than the game, and they're like confused that I think that. They're like, no, that couldn't be. They have genuine passion for this game. And it's like, bro, I get it. I agree. Nikke is a great game, but if they had genuine passion, they would have just made a game, right? They made a gacha game because that's what makes a fuck ton of money. That's the only reason you ever make a gacha game, is to make a fuck ton of money. That's quite literally the purpose of a gacha game. But people just don't really care. People have no problem putting their confidence in companies that only make gacha games, and I don't think people really are going to care about this. I do think people will come back. Now, like I said, I don't know if we're done with this. This could come back, but I think the odds of it collapsing permanently are low. I mean, if it does, I also don't really care. I don't take that much of a loss at this point. But, well, actually, I would say I don't take any loss at all, because I don't ever want to sell this skin, right? If I wanted to sell, I would have sold this already, because it's going to crash again. I honestly, I would have sold it like back here, but I have no intention of ever selling this. This is the first big skin I bought. This has like sentimental value. Well, this I think these are going to go back up, but these are also like two of my favorite guns. This was the first AK that I bought, and then this was one of the first guns that I bought. So I'm not going to sell most of what I have left. The only things that I have left are like skins that I actually like, and then a fuck ton of just random stuff in the crates. But
these people are confident in
this is the big question. Will people have the confidence to come back to Valve? I think yes, but there is some, like, there is a world, there's a non-zero possibility, because like between the dude who got all of his crypto stolen through a Steam game and now this, like, there is a possibility that Valve shakes things up, shakes people's confidence too much. Again, I don't think it's gonna
people spend money on skins
roll
because
that way,
they're
but
confident Valve won't change the system.
not impossible.
And the reason the market has dropped 30% in a single day is because this change ruins a lot of people.
I love this recovery. It's so cute. It bounced back up a little bit just to fucking plummet again.
Confidence in skins. On paper, it may not change the prices, but in practice, it's fucking smashed them. Now, as I've said, I'll break down the market fully in a separate video, but for now, I want to talk about what this means for the game long term. A lot of people have been speculating that this change means either Valve are going to remove cases, or remove trading, or are simply trying to make people use the Steam market more. I don't see evidence for any of that.
I agree. I think I've seen quite a lot of people argue about the Steam market, and I know that's partially why I brought it up earlier. I know I said that Valve would benefit from it, but I don't think they benefit more. I just don't think they care, right? If everything goes down in price and people start selling everything on the Steam market, then they get like more volume purchases. But like I think the biggest thing they care about is just people purchasing at all. I don't think Valve necessarily likes that. Where was I even going with that?
Trying to make people use the Steam market more. I don't see evidence for any of that. If those are the goals, Valve is going about it in a really ineffective way. I think this is just...
I mean, if Valve wanted to make people use the Steam market, I'm gonna be honest, they just tell people they have to use the Steam market, right? Like, it wouldn't be very hard. They could, I mean, they shut down gambling sites fairly effectively. I'm pretty sure they could shut down trading and selling sites too. I think the bigger thing is just, I think it's pricing the market out, which is the big problem. I don't think it really matters where it's happening. I don't think it hurts them if it moves back to the Steam market and everything goes down in price. But I don't think that's their goal. I think their goal is to just allow more people to buy skins.
Trying to stimulate some of the price inflation that's been happening lately. Now, there's no doubt this is a big reset in the market. Things have been going up and up for ages. Now, we're coming back down to earth, almost a bit like it's 2018. But long term, I think it's going to be fine. Firstly, there just isn't that many skins to trade up into golds. Yes, knives will get cheaper, but the supply...
Also, as we've seen, like, we saw some clips earlier, there's some insane Chinese inventories that just own every fucking knife ever. They'll just buy every copy of every knife. And, like, I don't think it's possible to out-volume the skins community. Like, I don't think it is. I don't think there's really a possibility, unless if we just, like, straight up make cases free, you can get unlimited cases, and you can open them all for free. I don't think there's a version of reality where we get more skins than the market can handle. Like, just straight up, I don't think that's fundamentally possible. Why do I keep losing my train of thought? Fuck. Oh, yeah, I don't think it's fundamentally possible. And so I think realistically this will cause prices to go down. But realistically, I didn't even think that much about it because, again, I've never owned any knives. I have my one, and I've never intended on selling that knife. And so I didn't really think about this when I heard about it. If anything, it's good for me. But then this happened. And this is what's making things weird, because everybody panicked.
Isn't there for knives to become super cheap either.
And so, because everybody panicked, I think there's a good chance that we have sort of a repeat version of this.
Still a shortage of skins, and expensive knives and expensive gloves are definitely still going to be a thing. Secondly, I imagine a lot of you are expecting a trade-up contract right now.
I don't think there's any version of reality, unless if this whole market crashes, that a D-lore will ever be affordable for a normal person.
Well, here it is, and I hope you're happy. I'm definitely not. By the way, it's field tested if you're wondering. And finally, look, a lot of people invest in skins, and a lot of those people have been burnt today, and this includes people who are my friends that've been hurt. But fundamentally, what happened today should be a reminder that skins are part of a video game. They exist at the whim of the developer, and that developer can take it all away in an instant. Skins may have gone up a lot recently, but that doesn't mean they aren't super high risk. They have always been high risk, and if you're going to invest in them, keep that in mind, because you're investing in a video game. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video.
Which is exactly why I invest my video game money into the video game. Because if I lose it, that kind of sucks, but it just means I don't get to buy, like, the next Souls game for a couple extra weeks.
Counter-Strike skins have just experienced the worst crash ever in the history of the
Yeah,
game.
look at the little tiny recovery to the fucking plummet again.
Billions of dollars have been stripped from the game's market cap in a matter of hours. It is so cataclysmic, people have died. But underneath the surface, there is a lot more to this crash than meets the eye. What's happening here isn't really natural. Skins have been in a weird spot for a long time.
Yeah, no, it's China.
In many respects, this crash is pretty much just gravity catching up to them. So how about they have Valve the market? What's it done to people? And what does it mean for the future? Well, let's get into things. Now, this video is now Check out just how bad it is. This is kind of a cool feature from gives people the ability to trade up for knives. This is kind of a cool feature on paper, but in practice, it has caused absolute pandemonium on the market with people panic dumping all their skins. So let's check out just how bad this is. So if we go to the price empire trending over here, basically the market has lost essentially half its value in 2 days. All-time high was 6 billion just up here, now it's 3 billion. That's
I do want to point that out, that it is very insane that despite the fact that I didn't buy this dip, if I am right, if things do recover, even if things recover to like a fraction of what they were at before this, there still will be a crazy profit. Like, these Counter-Strike skins are the stupidest thing in existence. I have nothing else to say about them.
It's a crash. That's a very
I've been
big
buying
crash.
these
Switching
for
to the
almost a
esports
decade.
5300,
They're
which is
so
another
fucking
graph I
dumb.
like.
I
this is a
love
bit
it.
like the SCP 500 for Counter-Strike skins. It's gone from 51,000 to about 27,000. So that's not quite 50%, but it's still a very
That's
big
so
hit.
crazy.
You can even see a small dead cat bouncing here. Wow, that should
Yeah.
pass. That definitely didn't recover. Now,
It
esports
tried.
has a bunch of other graphs, as you can see, but they're all showing pretty much the same thing. The market has just tanked. Everything's been hit. High tiers appear to be the worst. Looking at this, they've gone from 105,000 to 44,000, so that's more than 50%. Play skins, again, they've tanked. Agents have been hit. Agents have been hit really hard, which is interesting because agents shouldn't have been affected by
Yeah,
this.
I do wish I was paying more attention. I wish I bought some agents on that crash. I still might
nothing
buy
to do
some.
with agents. If we check out charms, they're up for some reason. Well,
Yeah, and
there you go.
they've returned back to normal, right? Like, again, it's gambling. There's like all this shit. As much sense as it makes sometimes, there's always gonna be the times where it just doesn't.
Awesome. So let's have a look at this in more detail. The crash started in China and it crashed pretty hard. Certain high-end knives immediately lost about 80% of their value. You can see on Price Empire how highly desirable knives like butterflies were hit really bad.
See, and this is why I don't invest in like top end skins, right? Because I probably could have just sold all of this and bought like a couple knives, but I didn't want to do that because, well, this.
Right after the update. And
Because
while
if I had done that, this update actually would have been devastating to me. The only reason that I don't care is because I have no knives that I ever intend on getting rid of.
they've gone a bit further down now, most of the damage was done in the first couple of hours. But while high-end knives were crashing, the stuff you could use to trade up for them was pumping. Most of the skins I've been looking at seem to have gone up about 400% almost instantly, while one set of skins was burnt and others skyrocketed. However, at the same time, the rest of the market immediately began to sink. For example, cases immediately started plummeting on the Steam market. Now, initially I think this was because of people quick selling so they could afford reds for trade-ups. Third-party sites weren't immediately affected when it came to cases, I know because I was selling on them, but within about 24 hours this was metabolizing into a broader market meltdown, and soon enough we were onto day 2 of the crash, which has hit pretty much everything. Cases, knives, weapon skins, everything. A good example of this is something like the Orb Gungnir, which in theory shouldn't be affected by the meltdown, but
And this is what the recovery is, right? That's this. Like, the market sort of stabilizing again is everything that plummeted way too low coming back up and being like, hold on, wait, why is a Gungnir losing
it is down
30% of
about
its
30%
value?
anyway. Now, at this point I do need to make a confession. Yesterday I made 2 bold proclamations. One was that skins wouldn't be affordable even after this, and the other was that the crash was over. Clearly I was wrong, and we're at the point where some of the gloves on the market crash
I'm gonna
was
be
over.
honest, depending on how you define affordable, I mean, I guess when he made this, there were golds that were 30, so I guess that is a fair statement,
Clearly
but
I was wrong.
that
and
didn't
we're at
last
the
very
point
long.
where some of the gloves on the market
Yeah,
are
see?
starting to look almost free. But we do need to look into why this crash has been so bad in the first place, because in theory, this update shouldn't have affected prices. Knives should have gotten cheaper and reds should have gotten more expensive, but that should have been it. Instead, the market has died, and that is a bit strange. Now, to answer this question, we actually need to look at why skins got so expensive in the first place. Why did skins add about $4 billion in market cap over the past couple of years? We've only gone back down to where we were at the beginning. It's not some massive fundamental change. Skins were here not this long ago. And the answer lies with where the meltdown started. It's China. China is the reason skins got so expensive, and China is the reason they're now melting the fuck down. It's been very well documented over the past few years how the Chinese scene has been pumping obscene amounts of money into skins as investments. Your options are a bit more limited if you're in China, so skins seem like a decent bet over there. This has increased the net value of skins by billions, and we've seen all kinds of ridiculous inventories chock full of random skins someone's decided to buy up, and recently it has just been at absurd levels. But now that there's been a massive shake up to the market, it turns out a lot of these investors have rice paper hands. Essentially, we've just seen the entire Chinese scene leave the market overnight.
I do think it is interesting. This second crash, like I don't think anybody was expecting this, because it doesn't really make sense, right? Because this was the panic, and then it just got smashed again. And
is why this crash has happened. Now, these guys,
like it's like, I don't know. I understand that I panic sold my skins, but I did that here. Right at the point where it wasn't this. Because, like, again, unless if the game dies, this was always going to recover by some amount. Maybe it'll never hit this again, but nobody really expected this to begin with. And so there is something super strange about the second crash, because it like instantly recovered too. This is like a fucking insane climb compared to like almost anything else, right? Like the steepest climbs might be like here, but like look at this. That's fucking insane. And so this second crash is just sort of befuddling, because
we'll be back, but for now we need to talk about the human impact. You see, one of the problems with this investment craze is that people have been investing their entire financial future into pixels in,
like I said, that's dumb as fuck. You're an idiot if you do.
Video game. You might say that's unwise, but people still do it, and it's not even the dumbest investment decision you'll see on the internet.
No, people invest that money into, like I said, Genshin Impact.
But because so many people have been relying on this market, the fact that it's imploded is really, really bad. And very quickly after the update dropped, there were reports of people falling from high places that are unfortunately not in Minecraft. In fact, according to one source, the death toll is 15. I am a little bit skeptical of that number, but there is one fairly well documented case of this happening. Now, looking at this guy's story, it's definitely a nexus of less than ideal decision making and various other issues all contributing. I'm not an expert, but I would imagine this is fairly typical of situations like this. But regardless, this has been an outcome of this update, and it's obviously very sad to see. What can we do about stuff like this? Honestly, I don't know. Should protecting investors hold back Valve from making changes to skins that they want to make? I mean, maybe.
I mean, no, because like we shouldn't call them investors. We're spending money on video game skins, and like if you put like I know it's rough, but if you put yourself in a position where that ruins your life, that is on you. Like most of the time it's probably something like a gambling addiction that's fueling this, because like I said, there's just so much volatility in this market. You do get the same sort of dopamine responses from this as you do from gambling, because because there were people who were just buying the fuck out of this, which is why this happened. And I'm sure these people got an enormous fucking dopamine hit as they fucking made an insane amount of money. Right? Because they bought a second dip that really shouldn't have existed. But the reason this existed is because at this point, there was a fuck ton of people who were like, oh, Counter-Strike is dead, the skins market is dead, it's never going to recover, sell everything, right? And it's strange how much of an emotional effect
to some extent,
this has, because I don't know, as someone who's degenerate as fuck, as somebody who spends money in gacha games, who spends money in Counter-Strike skins, I've never been at the point where I've like looked at this as an investment, where I've spent like money that I needed on this. Like I recognize how it can happen, but I don't know. It's just insane.
but what's the limit on that? I don't have an answer to this, but it is definitely nuts that skins have gotten to the point where stuff like this is happening. And this brings me to the final issue of the video. What happens from here? Are we in post-China Counter-Strike?
No.
Well, I have two things to say about this. Firstly, the number of golds that can be traded up due to this update is completely insufficient to tank the market long term. There just aren't enough inputs, and golds can only go down so much because of this change. Now, none of that will matter if the entire continent of China has freaked the fuck out and abandoned skins. So the real billion-dollar question we actually need to ask is, will people regain confidence in the market?
I think so.
Now, my answer here is a simple one. It's a yes. We
I agree.
currently live in a world where there is too much money and not enough stuff to invest it in. And until that changes, I have zero doubt people will be back to snap up bargains on.
Like, I know I keep saying it, but there are significantly worse ways to spend your money than Counter-Strike skins. I mean, buying skins in almost any other game is a worse use of your money, and there's still people who do it. There's people who do it to this degree. There's people who have bought every single skin in Marvel Rivals, right? There's people who have bought every single skin in every single game. Like, I just don't think there's a world where people don't come back to this because they're already spending money on stupider shit.
On the skins market once this all settles down. I mean, think about the S&P 500 over the last year. Donald Trump is like a porn star with his tariffs. In and out, in and out, in and out. What's the stock market done? It's gone up. It's gone up a lot. People don't care, and it's
people
going
like
to
to
be the
gamble.
same deal with skins. People have freaked out for now, but they will be back. And while it will be a very long road back to the previous all-time highs, I am 100% confident there is going to be a road. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. On the 25th of October 2025, Valve murdered the skins market. This took the form of a small update that enabled people to trade up coverts for knives. Within 2 days, the market had lost literally half its value. And it might not be over yet. And in this video, we're going to be looking
It's
at the next
2008
stage
all
of
over
this
again.
whole massive debacle. Let's get at least put a
Okay, I
trade up
missed all of that.
coverts for knives. Might not
I
be
know
over
this.
yet.
I know that.
Let's get into things.
Okay.
Now, this video is sponsored by Skins. If you're looking to sell direct, so to kick things off, we need to look at the initial crash. Counter-Strike's
Okay,
effect
we've
got
been
nothing
over
to
this
do with
way too
it.
many times.
Skins. At most,
This is an
this update is only
I've been recording for an hour.
going to double the supply of knives out there. That's not enough to justify an 80% fall in something's price. No. The reason we saw such a nasty drop was simply blind panic. At the end of the day, skins are a highly speculative market. There's no institutional investors. There's fuck all liquidity depth. The same way
no.
a relatively small group of
There's
people have been
there's nothing, right? Like, we've seen before people just go on Twitter and manipulate the market, right? By just saying, "Oh, you should invest in this," and then people do. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to this, right? Like, it's almost the same concept as like I think the problem is people look at something like the concept of not investing everything into the same place, and they think they can apply that to the Counter-Strike market, where if you don't invest everything into one singular skin, you're not investing everything into the same place. The problem is the Counter-Strike market is not like a stock market. It doesn't like I mean like Jesus just said, it doesn't fundamentally operate in the way that it would with like some sort of foundational backing to it. And so just the amount of money that goes into
able to
this
pump it to insane heights.
is what allows things like this to happen, because it's just so random. There's no anything to it. It's just whatever any schmuck wants to fucking pay for it.
Sellers have been able to crash it at an insane rate. Can't believe Don Hartry would do this to us. This is a key feature of how skins work in the first place. There are no fundamentals. The price is whatever Wingus and Dingus are willing to pay for it right now. This kind of volatility
Wingus and Dingus is amazing.
This is whatever Wingus and Dingus are willing to pay for it right now. This kind of volatility is all part of the game. And the same way the market has crashed harder than the Island Boys' music career, literally the day after the meltdown, it was immediately bouncing back at, frankly, the fastest rate ever in the history of Counter-Strike.
Yeah, like I said, when you look at this graph on the full, like, this is insane. This is unprecedented to anything that's ever happened. Well, actually, that's play skins. Right? This is bigger than every single one of these, and it happened over the course of a single day. Oh, wrong video. And so,
from the craziest crash ever,
I genuinely don't think the market's dead.
And this shouldn't be a surprise either. The market meltdown was far too ridiculous and hysterical for what actually happened. And the saner members...
Yeah, like I said, the only thing that should have happened is knives should have gone down, gold should have gone down, and red should have gone up, and that should have been it. Instead, everything went down except charms.
Trading community realized this very quickly and were on standby with their R&B to cash in on the chaos. The problem is that this isn't the end of things. In fact, it's only the beginning. You know how I mentioned that the panic had nothing to do with the new skins and people were just freaking out? Well, there's a flip side to this. You see, the reason we know it was just blind panic was because the majority of the items hadn't even hit the market yet. The vast majority of them have a 7-day trade hold preventing you from selling them, like this one I crafted here. So these new skins wouldn't be available on the market until October 30th at the earliest.
That's what I'm waiting for. I'm interested to see what'll happen on the 30th.
While the true number may be impossible to know, the knives we do know about clearly show that we are looking at tens of thousands of new knives and gloves, or maybe even more than that. And that is tens of thousands of knives and gloves with owners who are going to be looking to dump them on the market as quickly as they possibly can. And as we've already established, the skins market is very, very fragile. It doesn't take much for the whole thing to complete.
Yeah, like, to be clear, I don't think there's necessarily a reason for anything major to happen on the 30th. Like I said, I don't think you can out-volume the skins community without doing something that, like, fundamentally breaks the game, like making case openings free. So the reason that I think something might happen on the 30th is because there's just going to be so many knives being sold. I mean, people are just going to put them at the lowest prices possible. And if there's 20,000 knives being placed at the lowest price possible, each one is going to be a little bit lower than the last. And while usually that's pretty incremental, when you have 20,000 increments, well, suddenly that's a pretty big drop. And because of things like this, that drop, as we saw, despite the fact that only knives should have dropped, everything dropped. And so there is a chance that we see something like this happen again. And so that's what I'm interested to find out if it'll happen.
And with a massive horde of goals just waiting to drop on people, Armageddon might actually be upon us. So is the market about to crash to all new lows? Well, it might, but this is where we get to some really interesting...
But it also could not, because there's plenty of people, I mean, like me, announcing right now that are planning on buying on the 30th. So we could completely counteract any effects of an actual crash.
Investor psychology.
Like,
you see,
to so much of a
big part of the
degree
reason the
that
market
there might
crashed
not
so
even be a
dramatically before
crash.
this
It
update
might
was
just
that
stay like
people had
this
no
until
idea this
China
update was
starts
coming.
coming back.
It caught them completely off guard, so they pissed themselves and dumped their skins. October 30th is not going to be like that. People know this date is coming, and many of them are even getting ready to take advantage of the bargains.
Hey, that's me.
According to this highly scientific Twitter poll, far more people are planning on buying than selling, and this can end up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, if everyone is buying because they're expecting a bargain, there may not actually end up being any bargains. And if the market doesn't crash, well, the whole event could even kick off another rebound. Tens of thousands of knives might sound like a lot, but this community has already unboxed millions of them. We can definitely handle the volume, particularly given prices are down about 50% anyway. And how do you predict which way this thing's going to go?
It's gambling.
Well, that's the thing. It's skins. You can't. Still, there is definitely a massive anvil hanging over the market right now. October 30th is going to be a very interesting day, and it's going to tell us a lot about the future trajectory of the market. But I do have two predictions still to finish on. Firstly, I think prices will go down over the next few days anyway. Why? Because people will hold off buying because of what's coming. So the crash may still kind of happen, it'll just happen in advance. Secondly, I do think a lot of cheaper golds are going to be completely cooked at this point. Valve definitely did this update to try and make golds cheaper, and in that respect, I think they've succeeded. A lot of low-end golds are going to be affordable now. The good stuff won't be, but the cheap stuff absolutely will. And big picture, I think that's a positive. It's one thing if the average person can't afford a set of devices, but
as somebody who only has a single gold, as somebody who's only ever owned a single gold, I agree.
Should at least be able to afford some fucking racing greens. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. If you've enjoyed it, please like.
But let's see what Coffee has to say.
All over again for gamers. If you did, it's 2008 all over again for gamers. If you didn't know, one of the biggest digital economies just crashed almost 50% to $3 billion.
The fact that I'm watching a CoffeeZilla video analyzing the Counter-Strike market is just
from an all-time high of about $6 billion. This is all because of a recent patch. You can see this line here just in free fall. We still don't know how bad the damage is. Penguin Zero 20 hours ago saying $1 billion in market cap was lost. 9 hours ago, Atrioc made a video that says $2 billion is lost, and I'm making a video where $3 billion has been wiped out. So it's anyone's guess as to where it goes from here. But
well, that is about where it's paused. Again, though, like I said and like Jesus said, the 30th is the day that we're waiting for.
Counter-Strike 2, a popular shooter game where you have in-game cosmetics which have different levels of rarity. We covered all of this in a long 3-part series on my main channel where we exposed the underage gambling problem in Counter-Strike, but suffice to say, because of the in-game rarity, people have taken to speculating on the value of these items, and some of the rarest, knives and gloves, were going for tens of thousands of dollars. But that all changed basically a couple days ago when...
What's crazy is when that all changed, there were still skins going for thousands of dollars. That just shows how bizarre this whole economy is. Like, I mean, we're watching CoffeeZilla analyze the Counter-Strike skins market.
Counter-Strike issued an update where you could basically trade up for knives. Here you can see it right here. You could trade 5 of your covert items for 1 regular knife or 1 regular gloves items, completely changing the entire sort of digital economy they had going on, the supply and demand of everything. And because of...
Well, again, to be clear, it shouldn't have. And in fact, it didn't change the entire economy. All it changed was reds and golds. Gold should have gone down and red should have gone up. That's not what happened.
The entire economy crashed, but it also kind of had a reorganizing effect. Some items are down, let's see here, 96% in the last 24 hours. Some items are up 3,000%, because if you had those items you could trade up for a knife, all of a sudden those are more valuable because you can use those more worthless items. Now this primarily affected the whales the most, the collectors, the people who had thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in these digital skins.
And luckily for me, I'm a mid-tier investor.
You can see here this guy has $60,000 in virtual currency.
That's insane.
Basically, and he's about to recalculate, you know, what it is after the update, and you're going to see how devastating this update was for some people.
$58K, okay? Now we make a shake. Let's see, guys. 58K to what? 58K.
Oh my god, 40,000.
Yeah, he lost basically $40,000
oh my
in the
Lord.
space of one CS2 update, which ironically was called a small update.
I know
now, look,
that
there's a lot you can say
that
here.
is the funniest thing about this is it's called, like, if you look at this, when I first looked at this, I was like, where's the update? But it's this. It's just in here. Like, it's
I think one of the
this whole
biggest things is
situation
that
is
obviously
just crazy.
this illustrates the weakness of these speculative markets where someone controls the supply of your collectible item. This is always the biggest risk as a collector of any kind of item with no real value, maybe speculative value. You can think like Pokemon cards, other collectibles like that. At the end of the day, you can always have the parent company just release a bunch more of their rarer items and change the supply for everyone. So it's really
gambling.
not a good idea to probably put a ton of your net worth into these items. I also want to say specifically with Counter-Strike, one of the things we highlighted in our series is just how little the company listens to its community. I mean, let's be clear. Valve is good at some things. Steam is, for the most part, a really good product.
I agree.
The problem is they don't listen to their community hardly at all. They're sort of known for not caring what their community thinks once they make a decision. This even goes to the highest level of Valve. In the third video in my 3-part series, I showed a clip of Gabe talking about how much power people at Valve have over these giant economies and how really no one's looking over their shoulder.
People at Valve have to get used to working without a safety net. Yeah. There's nothing between you and a customer. You can do something. You can come in that morning and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have a million customers, right? And
they're all emailing you.
They're all me emailing you. And you probably should fix it, right? But nobody's looking over your shoulder. And for some people, that's liberating. For some people, it's terrifying.
So yeah, this is an open secret of Valve's style of operating. And the other thing worth noting is that it's not universally hated as an update. Some of the players who like to actually play the game, some of them are now happy that Knives...
That's the other thing. Like, this is such like an insane situation, but it only hit one half of the community, because to the other half of the Counter-Strike community, they're like, oh cool, retakes are back. Okay. And then that was it. But then to the rest of the community, this is one of the biggest things that has ever happened in the history of Counter-Strike. If not the biggest.
Understandably so. Maybe they were priced out of the market. And of course, people are also happy if you have a bunch of items that people can just trade up. But I think it illustrates that this market was always and is always going to be a speculative one, where people need to realize that these items have no real value other than what someone else will pay for it.
That, like, CSGO skins are quite literally NFTs. I'm sorry, they are. Like, obviously they're not literally, but in concept, in theory, you are spending your money on the same thing. They have equal worth.
And so if you're buying these skins for any other reason than you just enjoy how it looks, you're gonna be at risk of Valve basically rugging you. They completely control the supply of this market, and there's nothing you can really do about it if you're gonna be one of these collectors who's hoping that their portfolio of knives goes up in value. You can just have all of it kind of disappear one day. And I think this is pretty well illustrated by one of actually our interviews on the CS2 Gamba videos. Arrow, he was basically out in the middle of nowhere when this update dropped, and you can see sort of his reaction kind of sums up how big of a deal this whole thing is.
What happened?
Did you not say that you can trade reds for knives now?
You can trade up reds?
Oh, brother, you need to run home. Brother, reds are going...
I haven't had internet for like 6 hours. Or 7.
Brother, reds are going for 16 times the amount.
There's no way this is true.
Brother, I'm not getting...
I have to be getting trolled. I can't even open up Steam.
It literally is gaming's 2008. I mean, people were all calling each other saying, check your inventory, you gotta sell, you gotta buy. Some people are finding out that they've lost half of their value overnight. And all of this reminds me of one of the early stories of how crypto started. Vitalik Buterin, who is the founder of Ethereum, of course, part of his origin story was that World of Warcraft changed some of the rules and his warlock character got less powerful, and it was such a nightmare moment for him. He realized how devastating it is to have centralized characters in charge of your, video game or whatever. Now, I have seen people say, oh, that's why crypto would have fixed this, like crypto is the...
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. Shut the fuck up. Crypto would make it worse. Crypto would absolutely 1,000,000,000% just make it worse. It would make it more speculative. It would make it a bigger bubble. People would invest even more. No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. And no, it wouldn't. That is the worst idea I have ever heard.
Kind of not though too, because a lot of the crypto games that I've seen come out, the people in charge of the rarity items and stuff can still have minting authority over new updates, new changes. NFT projects, you're always risking that they're going to release a new collection. So, I've seen that argument that, oh, crypto would have solved this. I don't really think so, actually, ironically.
How would crypto even change anything? Like actually. Like it wouldn't do anything. Like Counter-Strike skins are like relatively individualized, at least in terms of like floats and things like that. It's not like no, the only way that would change it is in a purely arbitrary way where it says on screen like, oh, this is generation 1, but that would still be assuming that Valve for some reason wouldn't be able to just make another one that says that. No, that's dumb as hell.
I think this is just what happens when a speculative market gets huge, and ultimately the guys in charge decide to change the rules all of a sudden. I mean, that's just always going to be a risk you have. So devastating for the market. I mean, literally down 49% from the all-time high. Billions of dollars wiped out, and I feel bad for the people who had a bunch, invested in this. I do want to say, as silly as this whole story is, or it seems to be with, it's just this online economy, some people were seriously affected by this to the point where reportedly, and this is unconfirmed, but that some people even, jumped off buildings because of this. In China, they actually have one of the biggest skin trading markets, with the marketplace buff.gg being absolutely huge, and people all of a sudden seeing their balances basically fall in half or more overnight. So that's horrifying. I hope that's not true, but the reports we are seeing are very concerning. And I just wanted to mention it because, at the heart of all of these kind of speculative bubbles, there is a real human cost to people who lose a bunch of money overnight. I do want to say, I don't know how, they're going to recover from this, Valve, I mean, because really what this crash represents, it's more than just...
I can tell you exactly how they're going to recover from this. They're going to recover from this by the group of people like me who are sitting and waiting to rebuy it, because that will always happen, because unless if the market completely dies, it will always recover. I think the odds that China doesn't come back are next to impossible. I'm going to keep saying it. There is no universe where Genshin Impact is a better purchase than Counter-Strike. You can sell your Counter-Strike skins again and then spend that money in Genshin Impact. So while that money's not in Genshin Impact, why wouldn't you just put it into Counter-Strike, right? If you're spending money on stupid shit, why wouldn't you quote-unquote invest it in some of the stupid shit? I think the odds that this doesn't ever recover are very low. I don't know if we'll ever hit this again, but like I said, I didn't really ever think we'd hit that in the first place, right? This was the China inflation, and now, realistically, we're like back down to earth. And so, I am curious to see what'll happen.
It's also a big reminder to all of their customers that at the end of the day, overnight, the marketplace can...
But I do think it will recover.
mentally change, and I don't think that realization in people's heads are going to change anytime soon. I also want to say, specifically for the trade up items, it's my understanding that there's a 7-day trade hold when you first get an item on Steam. And so what's interesting about that is that there are all these new knives and gloves flooding the marketplace right now that cannot be traded. And in 7 days, they will be tradable. So it's possible that the market, unbelievably, may even go down from here, although I'm certainly not price forecasting.
Well, I mean, that's slightly off. This is the crash, but nothing has flooded the market yet. The only thing that has happened is a bunch of reds has disappeared, and this was the result. The flood is coming on the 30th, right? And like I keep saying, that's where things are going to get interesting. That's where I'm curious to see what'll happen, because if the game dies, that's where it'll be. But like I said, I think there's enough people like me that the odds of that happening are fairly low.
I'm just saying, if you want to get your items on something like Buff or a third-party marketplace where you can actually sell it for cash, if you're trying to race to get ahead of the, arbitrage here, I don't think we're going to see for a while, basically, how this actually shakes out. And that's kind of what's so unbelievable about all of this. So, yeah, that's basically it. I wanted to cover this since I had an insight into how Valve operates from my gambling videos, where I saw their indifference to sort of customer feedback. But also, it's just a huge market move in general for gamers. And yeah, I think it's going to be remembered, honestly, as one of the biggest moments ever in the history of Valve
I think
updates.
so. I think it might be the biggest. But I think that's also where we're going to wrap it, because I've been recording for fucking an hour and 15 minutes on a Counter-Strike video. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more. Check out the main channel for all of your Cult Rising content, and I will see you next time.